because they're unable to bring those guys in for their official team doctors to look at them and get them checked out. So the reason I'm mentioning this is because the deal for the Michael Brockers deal for the Ravens were going to sign the former Rams defensive tackle, and he's going to join Calais Campbell and Brandon Williams to make that bulky bulky and versatile defensive front for the Ravens fell through on Friday due to the red flags that were raised by a physical done by a neutral doctor stemming from a high ankle sprain that Brocker suffered in his last game for the Rams of the regular season. So the deal fell through. Like the reason that they couldn't officially come to terms because the Ravens wanted to ratify the deal because they weren't sure how much the injury was going to affect his availability for 2020 and going forward. I mean, high ankle sprains are done. When you hear ankle sprain, you're thinking, oh, it's ankle sprain, he'll recover from that. But the fact that he's still dealing with issues from that last game that happened back in December, kind of raised some red flags. And the Ravens didn't feel comfortable, like, going forward without, kind of ratifying the contract. Brockers and his representative didn't want to, comply with that request. So the deal fell through. The Ravens rescinded their offer, and shortly after that, he ended up resigning with the Rams for a little bit more money than he did with reported with the Ravens. The deal with the Ravens was set to make him 3 million, 3 years worth 30 million, 21 million guaranteed, and he's going to have a cap hit of about 5 million in 2020. And yeah, so he ended up signing a deal with the Rams. I think it was like 3 years, 31 million, with the maximum value of 31 million. And I'm not sure if he got as much guaranteed from the Rams. But yeah, so it was a real bummer. I'm not gonna lie. I was at work when I found it out. I was like, oh dang, for real. It's kind of reminiscent of what the hell happened when the Ravens tried to sign Ryan Grant 2 years ago, the former Colts receiver, former Redskins receiver. Then he ended up signing with the Colts. The Ravens had agreed like a 4 year, $29 million deal with him, and then he failed the physical, and the deal kind of fell through, and because he didn't want to ratify his contract either, so they ended up rescinding the offer, and it ended up working out for the better because the Ravens ended up getting John Brown. And we all know how Smokey turned out with the Ravens that year, looking real promising for a while there before Lamar entered the lineup and kind of took over from there. But yeah, so I was a little bummed out. I was like, man, what are the Ravens going to go from here? I even wrote a whole article about it on for mysportsvote.com. It hasn't been published yet, but you go check us out on the app or on the website. It's My Sports Vote. And I was kind of brainstorming about, okay, where are the Ravens going to go as far as, okay, now you have like you traded Chris Moore. I'm not Chris Moore. You traded Chris Wormley, and you let Michael Pierce go sign with the Vikings. So I'm like, damn, we got a hole at three technique right now. Who's gonna come in and play that spot? So in my article, I was theorizing about which guys could kind of come in and fill that role for the Ravens. I was thinking about guys like Derek Shelby from the Broncos, but he ended up re-signing with the Broncos a few hours later. I was like, dang, he was real good coming off a six sack season. This a season when he recorded a career high 6 sacks last year with the Broncos. He recorded 5.5 back in 2017, and he offered more as a pass rusher than Brockers did. Brockers is more known as for his run stuffing prowess, but a guy like Shelby I'm like, man, they can do stuff to run. They can get after the passer. So I was pretty bummed out when they didn't resign him. Then I was like, okay, guy like Davis Snacks Harrison from the Lions. I'm like, no, that makes no sense. If you let a guy like Michael Pierce walk, all you're trying to do like Damian Harrison. It basically did play the same role. That's two run stuffers. We had the luxury of having two great run stuffers on the cheap. While Michael Pierce was playing on his rookie deal with next to Brandon Williams, but it makes no sense letting bringing in an older dude to let the same thing and let the younger guy who's familiar with your system walk to another team. So I'm like, no, that's probably not going to happen. And then I was thinking, okay, some other guys out there, maybe Timmy Jernigan. The Braves might consider bringing back a guy like Timmy Jernigan, who he was drafted by the organization in the second round back in 2014. And throughout his career, especially with the Ravens, he provided a lot of great interior pass rush for the Ravens. And before he was traded to the Eagles back in 2017, and then helped them win the Super Bowl that year. But injuries have kind of like derailed his career and kind of kept him from making a lot more money than he could have. He ended up signing a big deal with the Eagles following that season, but he was never able to see the end of that deal because he ended up missing more and more games due to various different injuries. But the Ravens did end up picking up another former Broncos lineman. Well, I can't say former because Shelby did end up re-signing with the Broncos, and he only signed with them like a 1 year deal with like 3.5 million. I'm like, dude, you could have came and played with the Ravens for more than that. But the reason that he didn't come to the Ravens, maybe the Ravens maybe they didn't even reach out because they ended up agreeing on a 1 year deal with his former teammate Derek Wolfe. Um, on a 1 year deal with up to 6 million, 3 million in guaranteed money, and up to 3 million incentives with a cap hit of just 3 million in 2020. So Wolf was a second round pick for the Broncos out of Cincinnati back in 2012. The same year the Broncos went in the first round to the Rams, and he has 10 more career sacks than Broncos has played in less games. I mean, just last season alone, he had a career high 7 sacks in just 12 games, whereas Brockers played a full 16 and only had 3. An elbow injury landed him on IR after 12 games. But if you would extrapolate those 7 sacks over a full 16 slate, the dude could have probably easily had 10 sacks. He could have had his first double digit sack season of his career. It probably would have priced himself out of Baltimore's price range. But due to his injury and the fact that he didn't didn't exactly get to 10 sacks. Usually when you get in that 9 to 10 sack range, that's kind of when they kind of drive your price up. But the fact that the Ravens were able to get a guy like Derek Wolfe on a 1 year deal worth just 6 million, uh, with up to just 6 million, only 3 million guaranteed, 3 million gets the cap. You save $2 million more in cap space than you would have in 2020 with Brockers had he agreed to his deal, and then you get more of a pass rushing threat. And I think Wolf is one of those. He's kind of he played defensive end for the Broncos. He's more of that five technique, kind of like the same role that Calais Campbell slated to play, but what the Ravens like to do on offense, with the different packages they like to use, not offense on defense, but the different packages they like to use, they like to move their versatile defensive players around a lot. So you see guys like Matt Judon sometimes rush from the interior on stunts and on loops and stuff like that, or like they'll move kick out Calais Campbell to the edge, or now that you have a guy like Derek Wolfe who can also do that, you can rush him over the guard, over the center, outside, going against tackles like he has in years past with the Broncos, and he provides a lot more interior pass rush than Broncos would have offered. I'm not sure how much a dip it is in as far as the run stuff and thing, but you still got Big Baby in the middle there. I'm pretty sure he'll hold up against the run. So I think it's a great move from the Ravens by the Ravens, and I don't want to call it a consolation prize because I think it might even be an upgrade over Brockers. Guys like Derek Wolfe, he has a Super Bowl pedigree. Won a Super Bowl with the Broncos back in 2015. Played a big role on that team. Helped guys like Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware and Bradley Chubb see a lot of success with a lot of the dirty work that he did on the interior of that defensive line. Was part of that great 2015 Broncos defense that will go down in NFL history as probably one of the top 10 units that we've seen. And so I think the Ravens being able to get him for such a low price. I mean, wow, like at 7 sacks right there. I think Michael Pierce didn't even have like three sacks last year, and if I oh, let me look it up right now. I'll tell you right now if Michael Pierce had any sacks. Derek Wolfe had 7 last year, and Michael Pierce had he had half a sack in 2019. So that just goes to show you what kind of upgrade the Ravens are getting in the pass rush department. Michael Pierce only had a total of 3.5 career sacks with his time with Baltimore, and hadn't had more than one since his rookie year in 2016. So the Ravens are getting a huge upgrade in the pass rush department. They'll be able to kind of be able to do more in some of their base. I think the Ravens will be able to rush. I think the Ravens will be able to get more pressure with just 4 and 5 than they were in years past, where they kind of, especially last year, the Ravens led the league in blitz percentage, and then sending five or more defenders after the quarterback. And I don't think the Ravens will. I don't think Tommy Martindale is going to be kind of forced to do that this year, just because he has so many guys that can get after the quarterback by themselves. You got a guy like Calais Campbell and a guy like Derek Wolfe, proven interior pass rushers, guys who can get it done on the interior and on the edge. And then you got Matt Judon coming back. You got Brandon Williams. We're going to see what Dalen Mack does in his second year But I also think that the Ravens might, like I said, I think they have faith in Mac and a guy like Mac kind of back up Brandon Williams and possibly even Derek Wolfe. And then you re-signed Justin Ellis last week as well. And then you turn to the draft. There's a lot of great interior defensive linemen this year's draft. I mentioned that in the article that I wrote as well. You got guys like Ross Blacklock from TCU. You got guys like James Lynch from Baylor. A lot of guys in there. Neville Gallimore from Oklahoma. Ravens do like the Oklahoma guys, so you got a lot of different ways you can go to address that through technique spot. Derek Wolfe may not just be the only answer the Ravens will do. I guarantee you the Ravens will draft at least one or two defensive linemen in this year's draft. I think it'll be a very lineman heavy draft, but I also do think they're going to address the inside linebacker position and the receiver position as well. I could really see the Ravens having arguably the best defense in the league next year with the amount of pieces that they're accumulating on that side of the ball. I mean, they really are like an inside linebacker away from really being one of the most complete units in the league. I know a guy like LJ Fort came in and played great for them last year, but adding like a real difference maker at that spot, somebody who can fly around sideline to sideline, cover and blitz. A guy like Kenneth Murray from Oklahoma or Patrick Queen from from LSU. I think Kenneth Murray would be more of the fit that the Ravens would like to target more so than a guy Patrick Queen. Patrick Queen is an uber athletic guy, but the Ravens kind of like guys that kind of been there, done that. They've had a lot of tape and a lot of experience under their belt, and Queen was just a 1 year starter at LSU. He may have the higher ceiling than a guy like Kenneth Murray, but Kenneth Murray kind of wowed a lot of teams and executives with his interview process at the combine a month ago, and the fact that his play on the field speaks for himself as well. Both him and Queen ran 4.5s at the combine, so like athletically, I think they're on the same. They're like neck and neck. But as far as like what the Ravens kind of value overall, which is tape and proven like the durability and proven pedigree, I think Kenneth Murray kind of takes the cake in that regard. And if either one of them are there, I think if they have their pick at 28, then they're going to go with Murray. But if I think they'll take either one. If Patrick Queen ends up falling there, and Murray gets picked before him, they'll take Queen. But if both him and Murray are on the board, I think Murray's the guy that they go with. They have that strong Oklahoma connection. They like those guys coming out of that program. Oklahoma's kind of like the new Alabama for the Ravens, but yeah, I think that's the way they go. But don't be surprised if they take the interior defensive lineman 28, or if they trade back, or if a guy they really covered starts falling down the board back at some of their picks, you got two twos, two threes, two fours, and kind of go up and get a guy that they really like. So don't be surprised if you see a guy like Ross Blacklock getting taken with 20th overall pick. I like Ross Blacklock a lot. He reminds me a lot of Rockers. That doesn't really have the pass rushing numbers, but has kind of helped the guys around him get to the quarterback. He takes on a lot of double teams, beats a lot of double teams, does a lot of dirty work. Is a great defender, run stuffer. Same with Gallimore from Oklahoma. How cool would that be if you get Kenneth Murray at 28, and then come back in the second round and get a guy like Neville Gallimore to play a three technique and he's the guy that kind of ate up a lot of blocks. To let a guy like Murray fly around during their time with the Sooners, and then he could do the same thing with at the NFL level. That would be pretty cool. And we're gonna close out here with some Ravens non-Ravens related moves. Some guys that played for the team as recent as last year signed with other teams. Josh Bynes kind of came in and solidified the inside linebacker, that Mike linebacker position for the Ravens last year. Signed a 1 year deal with the Bengals. So depending on how much playing time he gets, I'm not sure. I don't think it's like a whole lot of money, but depending on how much playing time he gets with the Bengals next year, we could probably cook a comp pick, maybe anywhere between the fourth and the seventh round for him, depending on how much he plays. I think he'll do good teaching a guy like Jermaine Pratt, kind of like the ropes at the NFL level. Jermaine Pratt, the guy that the Bengals selected in last year's draft, going converted safety. But I think studying under a guy like Josh Bynes to kind of help him go a long way in developing to a more well-rounded NFL linebacker. So that's one guy signed, former Ravens signed with a new team. That was on Tuesday. Also on Tuesday, former first-round pick of the Ravens, Brashad Perriman, signed with the Jets. So he'll be going up to, and he wasn't the only former Raven to sign with the Jets. Peanut Patrick also signed with the Jets as well on Wednesday. And the Jets has kind of just been like a new safe haven for former Ravens players. They really like it's no surprise since they got former Ravens scout and Joe Douglas, as the Jets general manager, and they really kind of like taken a lot of the Ravens. I wouldn't say trash because I don't consider any former Ravens trash, even if they didn't, have the best career with the team. Like a guy like Rashad Perriman kind of finally found his footing last year with the Buccaneers after, once he got more opportunities after Mike Evans and Chris Godwin went down. I could have swore he was going to go back to the Bucs, but that was only contingent upon Jameis Winston going back to the Bucs. Once Tom Brady went there, I was like, nah, I don't think Rashad's going back to Tampa. He was kind of like had a nice connection with Jameis Winston and kind of really fed off of his, kind of launched the ball, YOLO ball kind of play. I don't think that's the kind of guy that Tom Brady's going to be targeting a lot in their offense. Even though Bruce Arians is a firm believer in no risk it, no biscuit, but I do think a guy like Rashad Perriman, who's been more of a body catcher in his career, like Tom Brady, he'll put it on you, but you also got to show him that he can trust you. And like I said, it took a while for Rashad to kind of catch on there in Tampa, but once he got his opportunity, he took off. But I think he'll be better suited in a place like New York with the Jets, where he can kind of take over for that in a Robbie Anderson role in the Jets offense and kind of be their primary deep receiver. I mean, he can still fly. Going back to the Jets connection, Peanut also is going to be joining his former teammate, former running back Stephen Mosley there in the middle. I'm not sure what that means for Avery Williamson of the Jets. They also drafted Blake Cashman last year, so I think Avery Williamson might be on his way out and in the Meadowlands. So we don't really know on that front. I think if they do end up cutting a guy like Avery Williamson, I think the Ravens might give him a sniff after that that post June date when the no longer count against the compensatory pick formula. But I do think a guy like Peanut will have a lot of success with the Jets. He had some of his best years next to C.J. Mosley. His last year when Mosley was here was in 2018 when the Ravens been in the playoffs, and he was one of the best defenders coming down the stretch for the Ravens during that like 7-1 finish to the season when Lamar took over, because he was playing that weak side linebacker spot, not the Mike linebacker spot. He's better suited for the weak side. It's less responsibility. He doesn't have to worry about calling the defenses and getting the guys lined up. He can leave that up to CJ. But other Ravens that the Jets have kind of taken under in these past seasons have been cornerback Maurice Canady. He played safety and slot corner for the Ravens in years past. Running back Kenneth Dixon, defensive lineman Bronson Kafusi, Alex Lewis, who they just resigned to a 3-year deal this offseason, and then linebacker Albert McClellan, who's a mainstay in the Ravens special teams unit for years, helped them win the Super Bowl back in 2012. So the Jets are pretty familiar with former Ravens, and I think they have a nice little pipeline. If you don't want to resign to the Ravens don't want to resign, you can always come to New York. So that's the last little plug for for like non-Ravens news. So thanks again for stopping by, and I'll be back with you probably next weekend, and when we can get you a whole week worth of news to kind of break down and talk about. Thanks again.